Good morning and good morning, Carrie. Things were silent um, through that intro. I'm not sure if I'm coming through, but if I am, great. If I'm not, Carrie, you're the only one here. Let me know. But I want to talk today. Obviously, today's subject. So Michael's going over. But it's a great class today, and I am coming through. Okay, good. Didn't hear the intro there. The 30 seconds usually has a nice little tune with it, but I didn't hear it. So, all right. I'll wait for everyone to come. But I did want to talk, obviously, about everybody talking about today, and that's Charlie Kirk's murder, political assassination, whatever you would want to call it. Again, it's a very sad morning, and keeping up on the news, trying to keep up on the news on it. Lucas is here. Good. Okay, so Michael must be done. Okay. So again, it's been dominating the news. I'm not sure what I have to add to anything about the story, about what's happening. Obviously, it's a very precise. This is a political assassination. This is the kind of thing that I grew up with, and I know a lot of people that listen here are the same way. This was my childhood. Political figures getting shot. It just was a reality that you grew up with, and it's formed my view of the world. This is when I saw it, I'm like, I recognized this. It's the same thing with I can't find you on this way. Do you mean the website or the YouTube page? I think I know that. If you do a search, you'll find me. Search for whatever episode you're looking for. So it was how I grew up, thinking that this is how the political process goes. You get someone who's impactful, who's having, whether it's, I don't remember JFK being shot. I remember Robert Kennedy being shot. I remember Martin Luther King being shot. George Wallace was shot. I didn't remember Malcolm X being shot. Gerald Ford was attempted to be shot twice, I think. 2 assassinations attempt on him. So this is, but then this is stopped. And, that time of the 60s, that time of upheaval ended. It petered out in the 70s for a really depressing time. And then Ronald Reagan came with his sunny optimism and set things straight. And great news, Joel. I reconnected with my old pastor, and we're on good terms. I have his phone number now. All right. It's good to hear, Lucas. I remember that. I remember that story you told. Again, but it seems to be back. This kind of thing seems to be back, and it is tied to the left. I was talking to my wife about it last night, and this is, and I've been saying this for a while. We're in a communist revolution. We're in a Marxist revolution. It was going full speed before Trump stopped it, really, and he slowed it down his first term, and then it geared up again his second term, fueled by the pandemic, that COVID nonsense. And by the way, I found out that I don't have to go like this and this anymore. We won't get demonetized if I actually talk about what a fraud COVID was. But Dennis Prager, my favorite talk show host, said that was a dress rehearsal for a police state or for an authoritarian state. So the reality is we're in a Marxist revolution, and this is how Marxist revolutions go. One of their tenets is they have no problem with killing people to get their means. It's a means to an end. Stalin's famous quote was, "One man, one problem, no man, no problem." So the solution to a problem, opponent, or any issue you have um, with your political opponents is just get rid of them. It goes about Che Guevara. He really got into that, right? So did Stalin, obviously, and Mao. And political assassinations are part of the playbook. They're part of the plan, and that's where we find ourselves. So I didn't really want to focus too much on that. So what I wanted to focus on was Charlie Kirk himself, because I was aware of him. I know that he started Turning Point when he was like 18 years old. And he was on, I think he came up through the Dennis Prager show, although I might be confusing him with someone else. But I was aware of him when he was very young. And then I just kind of lost track of him. And recently he's kind of been surging in the public eye, or he had been. And so I wanted the thing that I was, all this to say, I was just getting reintroduced to him. A friend of mine was a huge fan of his. All he talked about was Charlie Kirk. And this was a 70-year-old man. He just thought Charlie Kirk was the greatest guy. And I was like, okay, well, I'll check him out again. Because like I said, I peripherally knew him. He wasn't one of the big talk show hosts or personalities. But then he started to really, really emerge in the public eye. And it was really through his association with Trump and how big Turning Point was getting. Good morning, AC. Yeah. And Carrie, too bad they're getting rid of the wrong side. Changed my mind. Yeah, that was his thing. That was his thing, to go to a campus. And you saw the tent he always puts up, and the sign says, hey, prove me wrong. Change my mind. So the thing that was standing out about him was his courage. To me, the man was fearless. And I was doing some research for the show today. I was trying to find, and I'm going to share this because this is what I was doing. I was trying to find something online, some kind of video or snippet online that I could use to show, hey, this demonstrates Charlie Kirk's courage. Okay. And this is what I started doing. So I started scrolling down. My full speech at Oxford, Make England Great Again. I was not ready for this question at Oxford. Charlie Kirk takes on Bible challenging Oxford students. I had searched for his Oxford, just his Oxford speech he did. He went to England and debated in Oxford and Cambridge. I'm going to take that off and see what we come up with here. So let me refresh it maybe. And so he stood in front of these great universities, right? And debated these super intellectual. I mean, these were the seats of C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien and all these things. So I kind of lost it here. Yeah. Charlie Kirk hands out huge L's at University of California, San Diego. Let me go back to the Oxford thing. Yeah. And then you'll see. Okay. Well, I lost that. Shoot. That was going to be my... But anyways, I started looking through his videos, and I was wondering which one. Oh, okay. I assume because that's what Charlie's thing was. You guys don't seem to be, yeah. Okay. let's see. He was linked in some way to Dennis Prager. He praised him constantly. He took over Dennis's show. And like I said, Dennis, I'm acquainted with Dennis Prager. I was involved in one of his movies about 10 years ago. And yeah, so when Dennis had his accident, Charlie took over his show. So Charlie was becoming a super big deal. And what I was trying to show when I kind of fumbled through that was I was trying to find a video that would show Charlie Kirk's courage, but then I realized they all did. That whole list of debates he was in. Charlie takes on 300 college students. Charlie takes on this atheist. Charlie takes on, 4 professors and 3 students. The man was fearless, and he demonstrated so much courage. And he would get in front of these large crowds and just take one challenge after another challenge after another challenge. And students, these radical left students would line up just to try and take a shot at him and prove him wrong. Oh, was it Steven Crowder? Okay. I think prove me wrong, I think was Charlie's thing. But so he would do that. He would sit in a tent and, surrounded by people. And that was something that's was from back in my college days was very prevalent, because that's what college is, or should be. It should be an open debate and exchange of ideas. You should be able to come out there and take a challenge if you know your stuff. And Charlie knew his stuff on any subject at all. That whole list had abortion, it had gun violence, obviously, it had faith issues, proving the Bible. Right. Charlie was brilliant, well read. So he was prepared. He knew his stuff, and he had that quiet confidence, but he also had the value that this is important. This is what the fabric of our society, an open exchange of ideas. But so many that have those same convictions are so fearful. And there's one thing the Bible tells us. It's one of the major themes of the Bible is be strong and courageous. Fear not. Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing that one. And I did a search, obviously, of where the Bible says to fear not. Okay. And I will add that to the stage there. I'm getting better, folks. I am getting better. So these are all 15 verses that helps put our fears in perspective. And the one I like to highlight is the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? And I just think that Charlie Kirk epitomized that. And this one here, Psalm 118:6. The Lord is with me. I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? Well, we found out what mere mortals can do to you. They can take your mortal life. Okay. And that's what they did. Another thing that people are saying is, and rightfully so, when they talk about Charlie Kirk, they've been said R.I.P., rest in peace. And I want to kind of change that. I would say Charlie Kirk, EYR, enter your reward, because Charlie's in a much better place. And if there was anybody I can think of, and such a young man too, so at such a young age, he had a grasp of, and this super mature understanding beyond his years of his faith and how it related to the world around him. And he had this sense and the wisdom to implement that and have an immediate effect in his young life. And I remember thinking when I was getting reacquainted with him or acquainted with him, that this guy is like the heir apparent to, I would say, Rush Limbaugh or somebody like that. Someone who's going to change the way society, at least conservative society, thinks and acts. The thing that Rush did, he when I first listened to him, I thought, what a obnoxious blowhard. But then as you listen to him, well, you thought, wait a minute, that's what I think. I didn't realize that what I think, there's a whole world of people that think that too, that think just like me, because you're so immersed in the liberal hive mind, as one of the YouTubers I've noticed has that name for his channel, but it really is it, and you're so steeped in it, especially here in California, that you don't realize that there's a whole half of the country that thinks the way you do. But nobody had the courage to bring that up. That had become old-fashioned. Ronald Reagan had somehow revived that, but it was still kind of in its infancy, and there was so much opposition to him that you just, you felt alone. Well, when Charlie comes, I felt like he was kind of the heir apparent of that, where to younger people. And that's what President Trump said. He connected so well with young people, especially young men. And this is something that guys like him and Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro did. They connect with young men, and young men finally find a safe place to go to hear that their values and their views and their convictions are valid. And that's what he was doing. I firmly believe that Charlie had zero fear of death. I'll bet he and Erica had conversations about what could happen. Yeah. Agree again, Joel. Rush until later in life. He was brilliant. But again, it's giving people permission. And especially on something like a college campus. College campuses were when I was in college, we would have open debate, free speech debates. And, when I was in college, actually, which was during the Iran crisis, and there was demonstrations all over the place by either Iranian students or people who were protesting the hostage taking, right? Again, so this is the kind of thing I kind of grew up in. But college campuses are different now. There is no room for debate, or at least until recently, there was no room for debate. I can remember back, it wasn't just 5 years ago that Ben Shapiro was the big guy on campus, right? That he would come to a campus and get a lot of people there. And there were times when Ben was banned, his show was canceled because they couldn't guarantee his security, which was another way of saying, we don't want you to come, right? But again, Charlie found a way around that. And he did it with such ease and such confidence. And he was also a good guy. And Ben and I, a couple of weeks ago, were talking about his appearance, or he not really an appearance, but when he was kind of lampooned on the show South Park. And I'm going to add this to the stage because this, to me, shows who Charlie Kirk was. And I just want to play this for you.
Okay, everybody, the South Park episode just dropped.
Is there sound? No sound? Was that sound coming through? I don't know. I'm having some technical problems again, and it kind of messes me up here. Why wouldn't he be coming through? So, are you hearing this? Okay, we're good. All right, I'm going to play it then.
Dropped, and honestly, it is hilarious. I mean, part of it is kind of like whatever, typical humor, but it was hilarious. Just watch this little snippet of prove me wrongs.
Okay.
Our viral cultural domination
Yeah.
on prime time on Comedy Central, so important, so impactful that South Park is highlighting. Watch it.
I'm sick of people stealing my shtick. If anyone around here is going to be a master debater, it's me. So let's go. Who wants to debate the master debater? Let's go. You right there.
That's the stupidest haircut I've ever seen.
You are wrong. Leviticus 3:17 says it shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings. So you can shut up, baby. You just hate America and you love abortions.
Not only that, but Jeremiah 1:5, I made you in the womb. South Park gets this right. In fact, I think they've been watching a lot of Charlie Kirk videos. Watch.
Oh my.
Okay. Okay, I couldn't hear that, but that's just a small thing. What he was doing was promoting and pointing people to say, hey, look, I was on South Park, and Ben and I were talking when this came out that his reaction was so different, or I brought it up that his was so different than other people who have been lampooned on South Park. And I was specifically thinking of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, how they completely had a meltdown over it and sued South Park and were just aghast that they would be made fun of, where Charlie's like, hey, look, I was made fun of by South Park, and they look how brilliant they were. They noticed that, I hold the mic or take sips of water and I lay the mic down, all this kind of thing. So that just goes to show you, first of all, the thick skin he had, the amount of maturity he had at 31 years old, just way beyond his years. At 21 years old, 18 years old, he was way beyond his years. And just to have that confidence and that self-effacing thing to realize, hey, these guys who are brilliant guys, they're kind of crude, but they're brilliant, right? And it also meant, hey, I have significance, cultural significance now. I've arrived. I've been lampooned by South Park. And he said, towards the end of that video, he said, conservatives have thick skin. Liberals have very thin skin. And that showed in his interactions with students and his interactions with anybody. People would get really upset with him and he would remain calm. I'm sure he had death threats all the time, because that's what conservatives get. They get death threats. Yeah, you made it once South Park's mentioned you. So it's sad, but like I said, Charlie EYR, enter your reward. I'm sure all heaven is applauding now. Well done, good and faithful servant. I'm sure you're hearing that. Our reaction to it, that's a tough one, because again, you want to be outraged, and I think there's always this tension between how we fight evil versus how we trust in God and realize that He's in control. And there's always this kind of tension between, we're grieving that He's lost, but we know He's in a better place. And that's just not empty words that people say. Charlie was a man of faith. He was fearlessly a fearless advocate for his faith. And he was every bit as knowledgeable and eloquent in talking about his faith as he was his politics. The best thing that this can do, I think, or one of the best things this can do, I think, in the Christian world and in the church world and in this realm we are in, I hope this puts to rest the fear that we have of telling the truth. As I've said before, there's kind of this phony, ginned up conflict in Christianity now of love versus truth. Okay, you don't speak truth because it's unloving, or don't worry about what doctrines you have. Just love Jesus and love others. And love has to win. The church I used to go to said love has to win. We can't be so concerned about truth. We have to be more concerned with love. And it's just nonsense. And Charlie died for the truth. And we are to speak the truth in love. And we are faced with a culture that doesn't want to hear it. And honestly, they don't want our love either. That's what's so wrong about this. What does my love for a non-Christian get them? Nothing. God's love for them can get them salvation and eternal reward in his presence. And the only way they're going to get that is if we are brave enough to tell the truth. If we are brave enough to face this society we're in and fearlessly, because after all, what can mere mortals do to me? Yes, you can take my life, but then I'm just in God's presence. Like Paul said, to live as Christ and to die as gain. You can't, my pastor says, you can't threaten me with heaven. Okay. We should have no fear of speaking the truth, and we should have no illusions that somehow speaking the truth is unloving. Our society now needs to hear the truth more than anything. They need to hear the truth much more than they need to know that we love them. Okay. We need to love each other as a body. This is one of my soapboxes. You guys have heard me say this. Jesus commands us to love each other as a body. And if we love each other as a body, then the world will see. The world will see that, and then they'll know that Jesus came. Then they'll know the truth, that Jesus came. Love serves the truth. And the truth will set these people free from their bondage of sin and death. And that's what Charlie knew. That's why he wasn't afraid to offend people with the truth. And if anybody spoke the truth in love, it's Charlie Kirk. Okay. He was positive all the way. Even when people disagreed with him, he didn't call names. He didn't threaten. Okay. He just respectfully shared the truth with them without fear and without hesitation and with incredible boldness. So that's, I think, the best way to move forward on this. And I hope we can put to rest this thing, this destructive thing that's coming to the church, that somehow telling the truth is not loving. We are speak the truth in love. Speaking the truth is the mission. Love is the modifier. Okay, love is how we present it. I used to do a podcast on the Old Christian Podcast Central, which I started and Michael has taken over. It was called, I would do a podcast, and at the end of my show, I'd have a segment called The Great Cloud of Witnesses, where I would talk about Christian martyrs. I would get stories of Christian martyrs and tell their story at the end. And I would use, it was called The Great Cloud of Witnesses because I used Hebrews 10 and 11 that talks about so many Christians throughout biblical history that were persecuted and died for their faith. The writer of Hebrews names a lot of them, but some of them said, hey, there were people that lived in caves and got sawn in half and suffered all these things, and we don't even know their names. But they, knowing that they had the promise of eternity, they suffered these things in this life. And at the end of that, whatever story I told from my research, I had some books that I use on these martyrs. I would say, okay, I hereby nominate so-and-so to the great cloud of witnesses, of whom the world is not worthy. So to end the show, I'd like to repeat that. I hereby nominate Charlie Kirk to the great cloud of witnesses. Because the world was not worthy of him. So enter your reward, Charlie, and also, rest in peace. The world's a better place because you were here, and now you're in God's arms where you belong. So I'll just end with that. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for putting up with the technical stuff. And I'm not sure if we'll be here tomorrow or not, but if so, we'll see you then. Thanks for listening, guys.